Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And yeah, so my presentation is a more of a proof of concept rather than it actually exists. So I have the ease of saying whatever I want to, because there's no compulsion to say that whether it can happen or not. But yeah, so this thought was born on a flight with sir, and it was fortunately a long flight to Kochi for about 3 hours. So we had a chance to ideate on this, and that's how this whole thought got slightly crystallized. It's still fluid, but happy to discuss, and it's pretty exciting. We've been looking at trying to solve housing problem with ownership. We're trying to say that if you own, only then housing for all is going to happen. But let us be very honest with the kind of urbanization, and as sir already mentioned that in another 25, 30 years we'll be over 80 crore people in the urban areas. How many of them will be able to afford owning a house? So we're bound to look at creating rental part of it. Obviously the government has taken a lot of initiative, and I'm sure the Tamil Nadu example is exceptional, to look at how the public-private partnership happening, the developers coming in, and so on and so forth. But over the course of our discussions, we realize there's another huge pie of housing available, which is scattered, unstructured, hence not visible to us, but it's right in front of us. And that's how this whole concept is all about. And this, as I already mentioned, that 140 crore people, urban area would be about 90 million by 2047, and 38 million is the housing shortage. And as per the last census, which showcased, and with Mr. Narayan also mentioned, that in last census it was mentioned 1.1 million of these houses, 11.1 million of these houses are vacant in the urban areas. That means people have built multiple units, they are not leasing it out, or at least the government doesn't have records of it. So it seems that 1/3 of the housing problem is sorted. We are talking about census which is about 14 years back, and I'm sure the latest numbers would even further be much better. So it shows, is the housing problem going to get sorted with just 30% by what already the stock exists? That's the hypothesis, and that's the rationale with which this whole thought is being nurtured. Now, how do you unfold this, and how do you mainstream this, is the whole idea of this presentation, which I'm putting forth. That there are three actors in this. There's a landlord, there's a tenant, and there's the government. How do you unlock this huge, massive, existing vacant housing available? So landlords' concerns, obviously the Rent Control Acts are very much there, and they have tax burdens, property management costs, and they're not very sure of the tenants' validation, their verification. They're not sure. A lot of people keep their houses vacant just because they feel insecure about who's going to occupy the house, and there are other social stigmas attached to various kind of issues there as well. Whereas for the tenant, when he comes, it's a very informal market. He doesn't know where the supply exists, right? There are high security deposits, and sometimes he's not sure of the landlords as well. And they might ask them to go at any time, vacate at any time as well. And there are other social stigmas attached, which I've already mentioned about it. And I represent a housing finance company. I've been working in that. A lot of times we find a lot of difficulty for people who are staying on rent to even have a proof of address, their rental address also, who are staying in the ownership, in the rental housing. And then from the government side of it, it's been more, ownership bias has been very high for the government to solve the housing problem. It's not been so much on the rental side of it. Hence, it's always not been on top of the mind at all, that okay, government could actually solve it this way as well, where there is no money really going to be put in, but a very different kind of a digital ecosystem needs to get created. That's the solution we are putting forth. So we understand there is a Tenancy Act 2021 which came about, and then there have been government's attempts for the affordable rental housing schemes to come by, encourage the developers to do, and encouraging the banks and housing finance companies also to fund these rental housing to be built. But honestly, the commercials are not very attractive for the developers also to come forward to create these rental housing. That's the real story, because I was part of some initial discussions, but there weren't really much takers for that. And then obviously currently the housing finance sector also looks at these things differently from a perspective. The third house, it has a commercial angle to it. So we need to be thinking out of the box. How do we unfold this opportunity? So we are proposing something known as National Rental Housing Repository. So we are saying that there should be a National Rental Housing Repository where it will be a unified digital platform, right? And we will have the supply side people, they need to be incentivized that they should register themselves onto it, and they will get some benefits for that. The demand side will also empower the tenants. They can go to one place and look around what is available at one place. And from the governance standpoint, it will give them a framework where they can implement it, also give them a huge repository of how the trends are moving, better thoughts on the town planning, also to see that do we really need, how many houses we need to take, need to plan accordingly, and also remodulate the norms as well, because currently in our urban areas there are some restrictions on the maximum dwelling units per area, right? And in the informal sector, to be honest, much more than them get built, but formally the government restricts those units per plot area, right? So then we said that, okay, where is this data going to come from, and what are going to be the sources of this data, where we will get this, right? So we said that one is obviously going to be people on the property tax records, which will be available. There is a census which happens, and sir also told me that during the census, actually you document how many people are staying there and what's the type of the house. So there is information available, but has not been used for this purpose. Housing finance companies are approving so many loans, getting the self-construction built, so we can have the units captured there, that how many people are there and how many units are getting built. Side reporting is there. Then the sub-registrar office data is there, where the properties get registered or other form of registration which happen. So our assumption is that these could be various sources, or even more than that, which will come and sit in the National Rental Housing Repository. And then a unified platform. It would go beyond that, in the sense that there is a data at one place, and it will also be validation from both sides. Where if you're a landlord, you have to give all your details, and if you're a tenant, then you have to give all your details. So there is a verification layer which ensures very much this whole thing is very much validated, and the confidence level is much better. There is a possibility of people who are new to credit. Sometimes we are not able to lend loans because I'm from the housing finance side, but people who have given rent for over a period of time, this could also be translated as an alternate data for the people to get financing, right? So which is a very, very big premise. Otherwise, a lot of housing finance companies are not very eager to fund the affordable housing people, and I'm also to be blamed for it, because I'm part of that ecosystem. I can really tell you, people don't get funded, and as sir also mentioned. So this could create your financial history of sorts, which is very, very robust, and there could be a 360-degree feedback which could be looked at. Then on the supply side, today we should penalize people who keep their houses vacant, and actually if you're having a second or a third house, you should incentivize them. Doesn't matter if you have a second house, third house, but if you give it into the repository and you let it out, we will ease it out, not the other way around, today penalizing people for holding multiple properties. So the transparency comes and things come on track itself. And this platform could also be used for actually executing your loan, your lease agreements online, digitally, through the Aadhaar, having the DigiLocker there. So this will be a repository or honest transparency of the rental, and the documentation also very much part of this. And also to ensure that the confidence level on both sides is pretty much available there. And also we would suggest that we should be increasing looking at I would say the index of every city on the plot, how much units you can give should keep on increasing, so that more units are getting into the supply side. On the demand side, as I already mentioned, so the credit profile of the tenant is very much there for a landlord to choose from which tenant they want to be comfortable with. As I said earlier also, this will give them a financial history of sorts, and then the loans can also be given to them. And also we will be having these things attached to the DigiLocker for them to take it forward, and it's a very secure and a transparent system to go about this. I think the government has the most important role to play here to put this all together, and we would love to see if people, any of the governments are very keen to take this forward, and I've already volunteered that if a chance is there, we would love to work personally also as an organization to make this into reality. So there needs to be a total coherence of sorts at one place, and a technology stack has to be built on that. And we could also use government setups, semi-government setups like CSC to become places to register your houses into that. And so we already have an ecosystem which can be incentivized to get these data onto the repository, and which can be used at a great scale. And this will provide such immense market intelligence which today doesn't exist, because there are so opaqueness of rentals, it's opaqueness of units available, and it's also lack of confidence for both sides. So ultimately, we will have all the stakeholders, whether it's the landlord, tenant, the municipalities, and the banks, all are part of this framework, where banks provide the gateways for rentals to be debited directly from your accounts, documentation to be done. You have the rental on a particular pin code. You could drag and drop and see that, okay, what is the rental yields going on for a 1 BHK, 2 BHK. Today, it is a very opaque system, and a lot of times I'm sure tenants also can be taken for a ride, even landlords can be also taken for a ride. So it's one place where every stakeholder will have something to benefit out of it, and I'm sure this will take things to a great level. Beyond that, we were just looking around and seeing that, are there any such similar examples? We found one use case in Germany, which is called Mietspiegel. And although Mietspiegel was formed by Germany to actually control the rentals and create transparency of that, right? And the objective for them was very different, but it's a very similar thing. It's a repository. It's a repository of all the people who get on to register their houses there, and later on, from the data, they had something called as rent break, which is called Mietprims. So this is what they would restrict the people to, not landlords to increase the rent beyond a certain limit. And eventually it was a tenant protection also. If you've been paying your rent well, nobody can just kick you around. So there are examples coming from a different perspective, but India in a use case on this is very much should be there. And this for them actually control the rentals. The cost per of the income was 25 to 30% for them in Germany, for them as well. So overall, what I would like to just say is, as sir has given me 10 minutes, so I'm sure I'm not exceeding that, that this is a very interesting opportunity, minimum investment, technology stack, and we already have a digital ecosystem existing in this country, which is amazing. We have to just try to build something on top of that tech stack which is there. And that's for it for now, but I think it's really possible. Thank you.